Final countdown, baby. 3 classes left after today. How'd you like that reminder, Yusuf? Was that good? Did that help?
Yeah, well, actually, I almost forgot again, and I saw that link and I joined. Thank you.
Yep. Now here's the
You
thing
said
about. Oh, go
you said
ahead.
only 3 sessions left.
3 sessions left after this. We will be through all of the sparks and the ignites by next Friday.
Oh, I missed a lot.
Yep. And then I
I'm
will actually be hopping on a plane and going to Orlando. So if you're going to family reunion, you get to meet. We get to meet. Woohoo!
I love Orlando.
Yes. Yep. Family reunion. The big day's coming. And then we're going to restart again. I think it's going to be around the first week or second week of March. I get back on like the 4th of March from a vacation. And then I think it's like around the 7th or something, we'll restart it again. And we'll just keep these conversations going. The more you guys go out there and use this stuff, real world examples, bringing that back to the session, and we'll talk about those and how to just get masterful fast. So we're gonna keep doing it. It's working. I mean, you guys like this material and hearing it over and over again, right? I take it. And having something that you can bring your real world stuff to. All right, cool. Well, today is like contracts, making and receiving offers. There's going to be some incredible tips in here today. Actually, I mean, they're just okay tips in here. If you guys actually bring some real world examples that you might be thinking that you need to be aware of in your situation, like, I mean, if you guys have questions about multiple offers, or you've had a situation come up where you didn't get an offer accepted, or they didn't take your terms, the more you guys bring real world stuff to this, it's the real world stuff you're dealing with. And the more I can connect the information in the book to and the experience to where you are and kind of pull you through that at a mastery level for the next one. So with that being said, is there anything about making offers or getting offers on listings, if you've gotten any of that stuff so far, that you want to make sure we cover, or that you've had come up that you've had questions about? All right. And here's the other thing too. If you don't feel like you're, well, like I kind of said in the seller presentations and some of that other stuff, if you're not getting enough at bats, I'm just going to go back to get that list off Facebook, get that list off your cell phone, get it into a notebook. For 99% of you, the reason you're not getting enough at bats is you haven't done that yet. 1% of you have probably done that, but 99% of you have not done that yet. You got to do that. You got to find phone numbers, you got to find addresses, and just call people to check in, not about real estate. Just connect with them and write a note, get connected. I have heard this message on 3 different webinars this week. And one of them was a big agent, Josh Anderson. He's in Nashville. He was doing an interview on something and it just popped up on my Facebook. So I always tune in, and Josh does like 260, 70, 80 transactions a year, big agent. And all he said for the full hour was, I'm literally on the phone 3 hours a day, calling my database and just chatting. He's like, I'm not cold calling. I'm not asking for appointments. I'm not digging up lists. I am literally just calling my database. And I cannot stress that enough, guys. That was from Josh Anderson doing 280 something transactions, whatever it was. I don't remember what he said. It's the database, man. Get that notebook. Get it this weekend. If you haven't done it, man, write it all down, fill that notebook up, send me screenshots of it, and let's get it going, because it's literally about just calling 5-10 people a day, chatting with them, writing notes. And if you do that for the next 3-4 months, I promise you, you will be so busy in 2022. You'll be coming to class going, all right, so this happened yesterday, and this happened yesterday, and this happened yesterday, and we'll have all kinds of great examples for you. And I'll guide you through all that stuff. All right, so before I jump in again, let me throw it back open again. Is there anybody with any contracts, either receiving, like if you did have a listing and you got overwhelmed with the offers coming in, or if you tried to make some offers and you haven't gotten them accepted, anything real world that anybody wants to throw out there? Okay, cool. So yeah, assignment this weekend, work on that notebook. Secondly, send me pictures of it. Get me all excited. See, I get more excited if you send me pictures of your notebook than I would be writing my own notebook, because it's like the leverage of working through you guys and you getting it and doing it and watching you succeed is probably more exciting than me doing it, because I've done it. I mean, I already know what the results are going to be when I do it. So I get more excited about watching somebody else figure it out. So, okay, we'll jump into the material here, and this might bring up some questions or scenarios that you're thinking of that might come up. And it's okay to bring up a scenario, even if you haven't really had it happen, but you think it might happen, or you just, you know, it's going to happen when you get your first one or whatever it might be. But today on Elements, we're talking about running the business. This is the detailed side of actually running it and making it happen. And today is showing buyers houses and negotiating contracts. So the offer process, just kind of going through this stuff. If you got, I did actually attach the manual, so you guys had that with you. I will tell you that one thing that you got to work with in this whole process, it's not part of this process, is that buying a house is very emotional for the buyer and or the seller. Either they're leaving the house that they've been in, that they've raised kids in, or, you know, that was their family home, whatever it might be. Buyers are pretty excited about buying their first house. They don't know the process. So everything that you're saying to them is probably going over the top of their head. They don't know the lingo. And so I'm going to remind you again, too, that when you're going through the process, I'll try to point out where you hear me, where I would hear you maybe using real estate terminology and how you might be able to turn that into not being so real estate terminology. You know, counter offer. I mean, counter offer seems pretty obvious, but it's like, what we're going to do is take the terms that we don't like, change those, and go back and see if the seller will take those. That's a better way to explain to a buyer what a counter offer is. So that way they can relate to it and they can hear what you're saying and process what you're going through. So many times we just kind of go ripping through our terms and everything really fast, and we think they're getting it, but they're not. So in the offer buying process, the buyer makes an offer. And here's the other thing, when you're explaining things to your buyer, just kind of hearing this and watching it through the screen or on your book, as you're listening to it, just kind of hear how we're explaining things to them. So buyer says, you show them a house, they love it, they want to write an offer. So you're sitting down or you're at the computer and you're doing it on dot loop and you're talking by phone or Zoom or however you're doing that meeting today, we're at the make an offer. So the one thing you could do to start out here is just by knowing this process, you could say, you just keep this slide right there on top of your offer paper. So you can say, okay, so what we're going to do is we're making the seller an offer on their property. And we want to make the offer terms as best we can so that you're not doing something you're not comfortable doing with that house, but you're also making it the best offer that you can, that whatever you would be willing to pay, whatever terms you would really want, we got to sell that to the seller. So it is an offer. And then what's going to happen is the seller is going to get your offer, and you can just read right off of here. The seller is going to respond in one of three different ways. They either will not like the terms that we presented them, and they might put together what's called a counter offer. And that counter offer means they're accepting most of the terms, but they're changing the terms that are on that piece of paper. And then we get to review that before, you know, that goes through and decide if you like those adjusted terms. And if you sign that counter offer, then we have a signed offer. They could accept the offer just the way it is. And I'm going to do everything I can to convince them through phone. You know, I don't get the opportunity to sit down with the seller and present your case, but I'm going to be talking through the listing agent to sell them on this offer. Because think about it, guys, when you're representing a buyer and you wrote an offer, The last thing you want to do if you have a buyer agency signed working in their best interest is just scan it and email it and send it over and say, offer in your inbox, or even scan it and send it and not even check to see if they got the offer. You have got to get this offer accepted. If you have a buyer's agency, you are representing them in their best interest, and you want to do everything you can to make sure the offer was received, to make sure that the agent gets a little story behind it. Whether they tell their seller or not what that is, that's our job, is to sell this. I mean, like, this is their first home. They want to raise their kids. And I know we've got a whole thing in our industry about the whole love story letters and all the things we used to put together. And I don't know, actually, let me pause out there. Are you guys hearing anything in your market where you might have heard of somebody putting letters with offers and now we're not supposed to be putting letters with offers? I don't know what your office policies are on these so-called love letters, is what they call them. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes, in our market center, they're not, I heard they're not recommending them.
Yeah, so you have seen the letters go through, and you said you're not supposed to be sending them now?
Our market center, the broker from our market center is not in favor of sending them.
Yes, gotcha. Anybody else have anything to add or comment on that? And so anything that I share, I do want you to go back to your broker and ask about that too. And here's what I say is, like, I don't put a love letter. The love letters really were getting a little too lovey. What you might want to ask is, can I put some short kind of fact letter together? And the fact letter is more about, like, if your offer is a conventional loan, my fact letter might say, just wanted you to consider that this offer is a conventional loan, and conventional loans compared to some of the other loans that are out there. And this is where you got to be careful with your broker. Like I would say in my letter, like FHA or VA, I would purposely say that, because representing my buyer as a conventional loan buyer, I want to take the other equation. I want to take the other offers out. And this is where the whole struggle is between this equality thing. And agents are not created equal. An agent with more experience and better negotiating skills should not be put on the same playing field with somebody that's maybe writing their first offer. And that does suck to hear that. But somebody's doing business with me because of my experience and because I do get more offers accepted. It's on the listing agent's plate to present all the offers and the terms. My job is just to make sure I did my best to make sure they think this is the best offer they've got. But if the terms are off, the terms are off. If I'm a VA buyer with 0 down and I have a house to sell and it's contingent, those terms, I can sell it all I want. Those terms are not going to win against a cash buyer or conventional buyer. So I just say, think of it more of, if you are going to put anything with the offer, it's more of a fact letter. And if you can't really do the letter because your broker's not comfortable with that, I would still do it verbally with the agent. And I would just say, hey, I've got some information to present with the offer. This is what my buyer was requesting be presented. If you could do that, that would be great. And then you just tell them the same thing that you would write in the letter, however you have to do it. But you don't want to just scan the letter, send or fax the letter, the offer over and just see what happens. That's not working in our client's best interest. So on that, when I'm explaining this to the buyer, before we write this offer, it's going to go to the seller. There's 1 of 3 things are going to happen. They're going to counter, they're going to accept your offer. That'll be awesome. Or they could just reject the offer. So, and again, now I'm going to flip over a little bit to the selling side, the listing side. This is, again, just Brad Korn's opinion, but I would never let a seller reject an offer. No matter how insulted they are. I mean, unless there's some special circumstances, okay? If they have to because they can't sell the property now, then I'd reject. But I'm saying in general, I would never let a seller reject an offer, no matter how bad the offer was, no matter what that person did to tick them off. I would say then you counter something ridiculous. I mean, no, I wouldn't. So would you sell it to this person if they paid $100,000 more than your asking price? Well, yeah, I probably would then. Okay, then our counter offer is $100,000. You don't have a shot to even sell the property if you reject it. You at least have a shot. They might take your $100,000 off, 100,000 over asking price offer. And again, they probably won't. But guys, there was a real world situation that's closing next week. I got to say that it's just a past client. I think I've talked to you guys about this listing before. It was a 700, well, it was actually $1 million listing. She wanted to put it on for 2 million. She interviewed 3 or 4 agents, but I'm her past agent from like past 2 sales, but they've been in this house for 20 years. She lost her husband and she was interviewing other agents because her family told her she should, but she was like, you were my agent the last 2 times and you were awesome. She wanted $2 million for the property. There's not even $1 million property in this area. So I went and I knew she wasn't listening to anybody that it was worth less. So I let other agents, I actually bowed out. Like I stayed in touch with her, called her the whole time, never talked about the listing, just checking in on her to see if she was doing okay as a person, right? So I never pursued the listing because I didn't want it at 2 million. I let those agents wear her down. They got her down to 1 million. After her 3rd agent of hiring and firing and going through the process, which I was following it, and she actually called me every time she fired one and every time she hired the next one. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, if you need anything, let me know, so she had to call me. I wasn't pursuing her. Finally, after that coming to the 4th agent, she was like, all right, I really do need to sell the property. I probably should have went with you the first time. And I'm like, I just let it go, right? Because I was on purpose about it. I knew it was not going to sell for anything higher than this. And it's not going to sell for 1 million. So anyway, let me make a long story short. I take the listing. I take it over at 1 million, get her down to, I think, 900 fairly quickly. So I knew I had to get it listed to really, show her the information, show her the showings, all that other stuff. Well, in the meantime, there was a previous offer that had come in that just ticked her off. So she's at $1 million and he comes in at 700,000 and he goes away. So she didn't take it, right? So she ignores it. I take this listing over. And after about a month and a half on the market, we got it down a little bit, still no offers and no showings because it's overpriced, even at $1 million. But I knew I could get her down. Like if I got her into the 800 range, I knew I could get showings coming through there. So I wasn't quite there yet. That buyer calls me back up directly and he's saying, how's the house going? I said, she's not going to take less than 800. I know that. And she authorized me to say that at this point because we were about to make a change. So there's some things to be careful in there. Never ever say a price less than your asking price. So, but that one, she did say, if we got an offer for 800, I would probably make that work because she was getting down to taking care of this big old farm on 30 acres, blah, blah, blah. And I did say, so if I have somebody that's asking me about 800, are you authorizing me to tell them that they should put that in writing and let me bring it to you? She's like, yeah, I'll look at it. So that was my direction from the seller. So anyway, this guy calls me back and he's like, we're $100,000 off on this price. And so I'm just talking to him a little bit. And it's like, I don't know that she would, I don't even know if she'll take 800,000, but I would probably get it in writing and see, if that's something you could do. It's like, well, I don't really have my agent anymore. So if we could lose half the commission, I dealt with you directly, could we put this together? Long story short, we write an offer for 775. And I'm going to pause here because I know I'm giving you guys mastery level information and I hope I don't confuse you on all this stuff. I hope you're learning something from this process because I knew that he was the offer from the other agent before I had it listed. And I did call the other agent. And I said, hey, your buyer has shown up with an offer that looks like this is going to go. I wrote up the 775 with all in. Now there's half the commission's gone. So there's no co-op commission on this offer, but I've got them both agreeing to go with this offer. My next call was to his agent. I knew he didn't have a buyer's agency. He never got one signed or anything, but he does have procuring cause in there somewhere. And that's a very gray area for me. And I didn't want him to come back to his buyer or to come back to me because MLS at one point said we had the co-op fee on there, right? So again, just kind of cutting through the chase there. We got a 775 about ready to come together. I called the agent on purpose and I said, hey, here's the deal. Here's what's going on. I need to find out some information. And he's like, yeah, I never really signed a buyer agency or anything. And I said, well, I mean, if I get it to work, I'll do some kind of referral fee. It's not going to be the commission or anything because this is going together without the commission. But I just need to make sure that you're going to be okay with just getting a little bit of anything from this. And I would do that just out of the co-op world that we live in, that I would do that because we're co-op agents and it's for our industry. And it's, you know, he did show the property and write the original offer. Now he was 75,000 off. Well, he's really $100,000 off. So he didn't do a good job getting in his buyer where he needed to be to buy the property, but I did. So anyway, needless to say, I call him, tell him all that. He's like, well, I really don't have anything in it anyway. I don't have a buyer's agency with him or anything. So anything you would do, that would be awesome. So now I know I can move forward. I've got that documented and I wrote that down. And guys, here's the thing about all of this stuff is that when that offer is coming in, you don't know what they're going to take, but you know they're going to either counter it, accept it, reject it. My seller was going to reject it based on who the guy was. She was not even going to look at it. And I knew the net numbers would work. And I had to just get the emotions out of it for a minute and say, listen, this offer, if it nets you enough to be able to buy another house, get off of the farm and enjoy your life and not kill yourself, would you at least consider it? She goes, well, I probably should look at it. And she was through the whole process. She was just fine. I can't believe it's really him. That guy's a jerk and everything they did and blah, blah, blah. And it was a bad experience. And I wasn't even the agent involved in that. The long story here is it's closing. And that's a nice commission check for the one side of the commission. The listing side of my commission is coming out of that deal. I got her out of that property, probably sold the property for 75,000 more. And I got her into another property. So it's going to be about $1 million, $1 million, $2 million in real estate in one sale next week. So you never let them reject the offer. Just look at it, look at the terms. And I used the exact same thing that I just said. I said, if he really ticks you off and these numbers make you so mad, then you counter something ridiculous and I'll take it back to him. Now, chances are he's going to walk. But really what that does is it diffuses them to really process the numbers and really think again. Let me pause there. Is there any questions about anything? Like, I definitely don't want to confuse you. You definitely don't want to do anything against your broker's rules as far as the letter or anything goes. But let me just pause out for a minute, see who wants to ask anything about that.
I just want to know what's your process for selecting or recommending an offer to the buyer? Like, how do you come up with the number and the terms?
Oh, how do you come up with the numbers and the terms? We do not. We're not buying the house. They are. So when you're
listing. What's that? You're the listing agent.
Okay, so you're the listing agent. You mean to come up with the price on what to price the house at?
No. My question was, if I'm representing the buyer, what are the steps that I take in order for me as the buyer's agent to suggest the right or what I think is the best option for them to put under the offer? Or do I just leave it all up to the buyer?
It is not your decision. Yeah, I wanted to go back and clarify so I make sure I answered that right. This is not you buying the house. And they're going to want to turn to you and go, what should we offer for the house? And your answer is you need to offer the terms that you won't be upset if you miss out. You know what I'm saying?
Perfect. Great.
So, and actually you bring up a great point, and we might actually cover it here when we get in, if we get into more of a detailed contract side of it. But a lot of times when I'm writing an offer, if you can picture doing it on paper, it's easier to see this. And if you have to do it with a buyer and you're sitting with them, even though you're going to do a lot of stuff digitally through like DocuSign or Dotloop or whatever you use, I always like to have at least that paper copy there just to fill in the stuff where you're scratching things out and changing dates and everything, and then you can make it right if you're sitting in with them live. And one of the questions that I always ask a buyer, so I'll go back, I'll just kind of run you through this scenario, because so they're going to say, what should we offer for the house? And it's like, now You guys are the ones buying the house. So you need to make the terms. You actually can tell them, representing them, you want to make your best offer first, especially in this market, because once the offer leaves my hands, I don't have control to get it back. And I may not know if there's other offers coming in that are better for me to say you should have changed your terms or made it better. So if we submit, I don't know what's going to happen from the time your offer leaves my hands until they can get with the seller to present it. Doesn't matter what they say or anything like that. If more offers come in and better offers come in, we don't get to get the second chance at making your offer better. So once you decide what you're going to offer, I'm going to ask you, if you were to lose this house over $5,000 more, are you going to be upset? And listen to the script, guys. So when you have them give you the number, so based on that, based on the sales in the neighborhood, I've given you all the information. What do you guys think you want to offer? Well, we don't want to overpay. So like if it's a $700,000 house, maybe we'll come in at 680, right? It's like, okay, we are in a competitive market and most properties get multiple offers. So you want to try and come in a little bit under. Well, just to see if they'll take it. Okay, and then that's where I would go into, if I present that offer, I don't get a second chance at it if other offers come in. So let me ask you this. What offer do you want to make sure, like what's your best offer? If you were to put your best offer first, what's that? And they go, well, I mean, we do 700,000. We do their asking price. Okay, so right there, I've kind of got them in now. So I'm going to write $700,000 down. And I'll start there and I'll write it down now. Stop right there and I'll go, now let me just ask you, if I take this $700,000 offer and I submit it to the agent, and in between that and getting it to the seller, some more offers come in, and you guys were to miss out on this property by $10,000, let's say a $710,000 better offer came in, are you going to be okay missing out on this house? And it will be a snap answer. They're going to say, no, we better not lose it over 710. Okay, then let's make our best offer first, that you're not overpaying for the property, but you don't want to miss the property because I may not get a second chance. So let's just do so. I'll cross it out and I'll write 710. And then I'll say, now, before I go any further, and I'm representing them, right? But I'm saying, before we go any further, if an offer comes in at 715, are you going to be okay missing out on this house? And I'm telling you, most of the time, it's a split decision at that time. If it's a husband and a wife or a couple or whoever's buying, right? One will say, no, we better not miss out on the house. The other one will say, heck yeah, I don't want it for that. And now they get to battle that out. And then we decide, you know, and if whoever wears the pants in the family is going to be the one that kicks the other one and goes, we better not lose it over 5,000, then guys, let's just do 715. Now, if they're starting to look a little squeamish about stuff, I'll say, and you guys are financing this, right? So if the interest rate's 4%, it's basically about $4 per thousand. So if we're going up $5,000 more, so this is going to be $20 more a month. $4 per thousand, we're going up 5,000 more to 715. I'm saying it's going to be $20 more a month than if you'd win at 710. Now, we haven't figured out what their payment was at 710 and all that stuff. I'm just helping them process through here what they want to offer. And they say, yeah, we better not lose it over 715. Okay, let's just do 715. You sure you don't want to do 716 just to be safe? No, just leave it at 715. Okay. All right. So before we move on, so I said 716, but if you lose the property over 716, are you okay with that? Somebody beat you up by $1,000. And they will finally say, no, the 715 is already like the most. Okay, so I know now what the property is really worth to them, and I've got them presenting a better offer. Tell me that wasn't the best thing you could have got today coming to this class. Yes, that is the gold. Oh my, that is gold, baby. That is gold. You're going to get 2 out of 4 offers accepted because of that script right there. And you're going to get really, really good at it. And you're going to get 3 or 4 out of 5 offers accepted because you're using that script and taking them through that process. Guys, that's a pivotal point in at least in my career when I started using it. And I don't remember where I got it from. I think I pieced it together from somebody gave it to me. Anyway, so then as you go through that process, then we got to negotiate and begin the close process if it gets accepted. And or if they reject the offer, then we gotta, find them another house. So that's kind of, and like I said, we're actually already a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I just like having the conversation around this material, and that way you guys can hear it a couple of different ways and hear it when it means the most to you. All right, let me pause out there. Any questions on that script? Anything you think that will or won't work, or questions that you have about using it? Okay. All right, so preparing the offer. And again, I added to your emails those checklists for preparing your offer. All this stuff is in command. This is actually in your Ignite checklist. So not command, in Ignite, your Ignite checklist, but I sent it to you. And it just goes through the different things: to have their pre-approval letter, to have the CMA there. And the CMA, I basically pull up 3 reports. If they're looking at a house in a neighborhood, I'll pull up what the neighborhood sales are and do the 1-line printout in the MLS. I'll do that floor plan, age range, and bedroom house in the MLS area property. And I know, are your properties really diverse, or is most of the places where you are pretty established neighborhoods and everything's somewhat similar? What would you guys consider your market to be? Are there condos next to duplexes, next to townhomes, next to single family, or is it single family neighborhoods for the most part?
Single family neighborhoods.
Yeah, that makes it much easier. So when you have single family neighborhoods and you can just pull up the neighborhood, and even if you have to draw a map around about where the neighborhood is, and just go back 6 months or a year and pull up a 1-line MLS printout of that neighborhood. That's the one sheet that I just print. The next sheet I print is if it's a 2-story, 4-bedroom home that's 40 years old, then I'll pull up 2-story homes in the MLS area, which is bigger than the neighborhood. I'll pull up the floor plan. I'll pull up the bedrooms, so 4 bedrooms, and I'll pull up the age range. If the house is 40 years old, I'm going to go 20 to 60 years old on my MLS search. And I'm going to pull up in that MLS area what are 4-bedroom, 2 stories that are 20 to 60 years old selling for. And I do the 1-line printout, because in my 1-line printouts, I'm just looking for the average. I'm looking for the low, I'm looking for the high, and I'm looking for where the middle is. So that if I looked at those 2 reports and that house is $700,000 and it's the most expensive thing in the neighborhood, and it's towards the very top of the list for the MLS area, then it's probably one of the most expensive properties that are on the market, and you already would have felt like it was a little overpriced. And now we're telling them to go $715,000. However, because of the current market conditions, we also know that everything's selling at the top end. So now I got to go back and look at maybe what pendings are in there. And in that 1-line printout, I'll pull up actives, pendings, all your pendings, whether that's backup, contingent, whatever, and then solds. I'll go back 6 months or a year, as long as I can pull up a good 6, 7, 8, 10 sales, because that's going to give me a better average than the appraisal method that you may have thought you were going to do, where you pull 3 similar properties, you average the 3 and give it a value. That is probably putting a little too much opinion on our side of the equation when you do it like an appraiser does it. And I'll tell you why. This is another big learning moment. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, do we have a question? Oh, it might have been background noise. I'll tell you one more thing on this, is that when you're pricing properties and or doing a CMA for your buyers, a market analysis, comparative market analysis, an appraiser has a contract and it has a price and it has the terms and stuff and it has the financing and everything. So when an appraiser goes out and finds 3 properties that average the contract price, they have the answer to the equation already. What they're doing is they're just verifying to the bank that if you sell it for this contract price, I found 3 properties that average that price. What doesn't work is in the real estate world, when we go in and pull up the 3 properties we think we should use, because we don't know the price yet when we're listing a property. We have no idea what it could go for. And you've seen that in these markets now where things are selling for $50,000, $60,000 over asking price. We didn't know what it was going to sell for because there is no sales to match it, right? But that in that same scenario is we don't have the answer to the equation when we're listing a property. So that's why you want to look at supply and demand. How many houses in the neighborhood? Oh, some background noise. Oh, there we go. Got muted. We got the average of the neighborhood and the average of their type of house, and that average will tell us what the average house will sell for. Now, in this hot market, we're not going to necessarily look at solds because that was 6 months ago data. Those closed at least a month or longer back. So we're looking at the pendings and the offers that have been accepted. And in most cases, your MLS is probably only showing the price it was listed at when it got the offer, not the price that they took. So taking all that into consideration, if there's 10 pending properties and they're averaging somewhere between 650 to 850, then 700 is a pretty good deal. It's in the middle of the current activity, even though there might not be a sale over 700 yet. Does that make sense? So just know that appraisers have the answer, and they're plugging in the formula to show the bank you can make this loan. I found 3. And sometimes they're fitting properties in there. Whenever you get a short appraisal, the reason why you would get a short appraisal is if you did this other approach, you wouldn't have seen any properties sold anywhere around like theirs in the neighborhood, period. You're going to probably get a short appraisal because that appraiser has to go find 3 that at least average whatever price you do get if there's financing involved, if there's financing, right? So if you already know they're not there, then that's the other thing you can say to a seller if you're on the listing side is there's nothing that sold. The appraiser has to find 3 houses that will at least average the price you think you're going to get for your house. And nobody's got it. So we could put it on at that, and I might sell it for that, but it doesn't mean it's going to appraise for that. Does that make sense? So that's another, the 10-minute quick CMA as I pull up the neighborhood, the area, and then I look at what's for sale for our competition when I'm pricing a house, so that when I figure out where we probably will get the offer, I'll look to the active list and see where we would be as far as what's available right now. When we hit the market at 700,000, I can bet that we're probably towards the lower end of the list of everything that's for sale, because most agents overprice properties because they just come in and sit down and go, well, what do you want? Market's so crazy, we'll put it on whatever you want. I want 2 million. Okay, let's put it on 2 million. And they're just trying to get the listing. So when you price it based on where the offers are coming in, even if it might be high, you're still going to be on the lower end of the list most of the time for what's for sale. So from your buyer's perspective, you're really looking at those first 2 reports to show them what contracts have been going under contract for. And then the last thing on that too, part of that conversation is because the market is still, there's no inventory and there's still a high demand for houses, that means the values are still going up. They might not be going up by 50, 60 or 100,000, but they might be going up by 20,000, right? So as long as the market's going up and we look like we're towards the top end of the market, it's still going up. The inventory has not caught up to the buyers yet. So at least if you're going to be at that top end, we're still in an appreciating market. Does that make sense? So it's kind of hard to overpay for property right now, unless you're just 100,000 over anything else that's sold, period, right? So it's really scary for cash buyers. I mean, if you got a cash buyer and they're not going to do an appraisal, I mean, it is scary. They could overpay for a property because you're not getting any value or finding sales and there's no lender involved. Not that it's a bad thing. Cash is good and they're going to get the property. But anyway, so we pull up tax records, we pull up the plat map, and there's a whole checklist in there of different things that you can pull up when you're getting ready to write the offer so that you can give them all the information about the property. One of the things is representing the buyer that I always have is sometimes you'll have access to history. You might know what they paid for the property. I have that information there in case they ask for it. Although this market is kind of scary, and I would probably have to ask my own broker if I'm okay doing this. If I'm representing them, do I have to tell them what the person paid for it? I don't think so, because it was different market. But if it's 150,000 more and they've only owned it for a year, these people are making some jack on their equity. But again, if I'm representing the buyer and that's what properties are selling for in that neighborhood, and I've got sales that show they're selling for that now all day long with multiple offers, it's irrelevant what the seller paid for the property, right? I mean, sellers do make their equity when they buy the property. You don't make your equity when you sell the property. So who knows what terms they bought it under and what market they bought it under. Does that make sense? Let me stop there for preparing the offer. Any questions about what you might want to put with an offer to help you get more offers accepted? Or, I mean, do you guys think about that? Like, how do I win in this market when there's multiple offers all the time?
I know I've heard of people like, I don't know, playing around like the conditions or something of the offer. Like when they're ready to move in, for example, or buy it. I mean, closing day, there you go.
Yeah, closing and possession. So are you even talking maybe about early occupancy or something like that where they're moving in before it's closed, or just what date to put down in general?
I know I've heard some people or someone say that, you know, if it's not too far away, or if you don't have like if you're not waiting for your house to sell, it's a lot more likely to that, you know, that the offer's more in your favor.
Great. So actually, this question actually links us between preparing the offer and writing the offer. So one of the preparation sides are, if you really want to represent your buyers well, you are going to be on the phone talking to the listing agent. And in that, here's a couple things I want you to be aware of how you say things, okay? If you're representing the buyer, you don't ever want to say to the listing agent or put in your feedback in any way, shape, or form that this was a beautiful home. Thank you so much. The buyers just loved it. If you're representing the buyer, you do not want to say that. You want to neutralize that and go, house showed very well compared to others that we've seen, and this has definitely made the top of the list. You always want to give the impression that there are other options out there, even if there aren't, even if your buyer is in love with that house. So when I call the agent, because now they love this house, I mean, this is their dream home. I have got to make sure they win this bid, and not just by offering $100,000 over. That's an easy way. That could still be overpaying for the property. But right now, man, I need to find out some serious intel, like, think of how do I make this offer be the most amazing offer this seller would ever want. So if I wanted to do that, and now separate yourself for a second, because you're representing the buyer, but you want the offer to be the best offer this seller is going to see. So I'm going to call the selling agent. And what do you think are some of the things you might ask if you want to find out what the seller may want their offer to be? What questions? I'm going to just kind of trick you guys a little bit, not really trick, to test you. Like, what questions do you think you would ask the listing agent to make sure your offer was really good when you go to write it, and to relay back to your buyer on what the seller might want? What questions do you think you would ask? I'll give you the first one, easy, and then you guys throw one or two in, and then I'll keep giving you some more. Okay, so I'm gonna make you think a little bit here. So the first one would be real simple. Like, so if your sellers, what is the closing date that your sellers would love to see on an offer? So, and actually, let me even back up, because I'll preface this when I'm calling the agent going, hey, thanks for letting us show. By the way, I submitted feedback. I always submit feedback because we always want feedback. So always give feedback 100% of the time, as fast as you can. Just keep it neutral. Don't give away the farm for your buyers. But I will call and I'll say, so that one made the top of the list, and I'm really working to see if we can't get something in writing on your listing. So I want them to be excited by, oh my God, an offer. And they might even say, we already got 11 on it. I still want them to feel like, okay, one more offer. If it was better than all the 11, would that be good? Right? That's what I'm trying to get the listing agent to leave this conversation with. So I will say, I'm really working on, make this the one that they would decide on. So what is the closing date that would be important to your seller? Because see, if I ask them that, closing and possession, now they're telling me some information about their client that I can relay to the buyer. And if that date would work, and they're like, yeah, we don't care, we're at a month to month, then your offer is going to be more attractive than anybody else's, because it's going to come in on the date that the agent tells you, if it works out. If it doesn't work out for your buyer, then I'm going to have to switch gears back again when I present the offer, and in my fact letter explain to them why taking this closing date, which is different than what their seller really wanted, is still the best offer they're going to get. See, it's a continual, it's like a chess game, man. Every time the pieces move, I got to convince the other side I know what I'm doing. So with that being said, if I ask closing date, what's something else you guys might ask about? And there is no wrong answer. Did I stump you? Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna say, are there any other things about the seller's situation that they would like to see in the offer? You know, so again, it's like, I've got the seller's disclosure, I got the MLS sheet and all that stuff. I saw they were leaving the appliances, or maybe they weren't leaving some of the appliances. So just feel out as much information as you can, because you've got the piece of the puzzle for your buyers. And if your buyer said, do you think they'd leave the fridge and the washer and dryer? Right? So when I'm calling the agent saying that was one of the top ones that they saw, I'm really working for them to make an offer on this one, would love to work with you, co-op with you, right? So what's a good date for the seller? If I can get them to write this up, what kind of date would your seller be looking at? Okay, great. And then on the appliances, I noticed they weren't leaving the fridge, the stove, and the washer and dryer. Is that critical that they're taking those with them, or is that just what they were hoping? Oh no, I told them the stove usually stays and blah blah. The washer and dryer don't, but you know, I don't know that that's super critical. So the agents a lot of times will just tell you all kinds of stuff, right? So now, again, now when I come back over to the other side and we're getting ready to write the offer, which is what we're on right now, and writing the offer with the buyer, we can just relay this information. So remember, after we get to the 715, we're coming down to earnest money and the other stuff, even the earnest money conversation. And there's a whole checklist on things for writing your offer, your price and terms, the seller's disclosure, conveyances, the earnest money, all of that stuff's on your checklist. So when we come to earnest money, I say, how much earnest money do you want to put down? And what's typical for your guys' earnest money in your market? Is there a typical, is it a percentage of the sale price, or do you know? I don't know what it is in your market. So in our market, I mean, if they get $500 or $1,000 for earnest money, that works in the Midwest. I would imagine your market is probably like 1% of the purchase price. If it's a $700,000 house, they put down $7 grand. On that house that I just put under contract for $775, he wrote an earnest money check for $7,750. He has equity from the sale of his home. So that one was the first time I've had one that, I mean, I haven't had a $7,000 earnest money check in probably 20 years. However, representing a buyer once, it was probably about 20 years ago, we were in a pretty competitive market. I can't remember if it was the foreclosure market or if it was just a competitive market, but my sellers were putting down like $30,000 or $40,000 on this house that they were buying, or my buyers were putting down $30,000 or $40,000 on a house that they were buying that we were making an offer on. So when we got the earnest money, I said, how big do you want your earnest money check to be? And they said, well, so what is that? And how much should we write? It's like, well, you guys said you had 30,000 you're putting down, right? Right. Is there any chance you don't want to buy this house? Heck no, this is a steal. We want this house. So you could put a $30,000 earnest money check down, because we know there's going to be multiple offer situations. And if you're putting $30,000 down anyway, and you're not going to change your mind willy-nilly and just walk away from this deal, they can't lose their earnest money. They still have inspections. They still have financing. I think there was financing on that one still. There's still some other loopholes for them to get out. I said, if there's no way you would change your mind and leave your earnest money behind, you could actually put $30,000 down for earnest money. If anything, when the seller sees a $30,000 check with the offer, can you imagine how much more excited they are about that offer? And it doesn't mean anything. They don't get it. They don't get the $30,000 until it closes, but they saw a $30,000 check. And if they saw a $5,000 check with the next offer, they already mentally, that seller knows this person's committed to buying this house. We actually won that bid and we were not the most expensive offer, but we put $30,000 earnest money down. Silliest thing ever, because they don't get the earnest money. It's just credited to the buyer at closing. So when you have your earnest money conversation, it's the more the earnest money is, the more earnest you are. It shows the seller you're serious and that you're not just going to change your mind. And if it's competing offer situations, the bigger that number is. If it's bigger than everybody else's, that will just be one check mark in your favor. See how these conversations, you're just kind of explaining things to them. But then you can go through all those financing terms. And then when you get down to the closing date, again, hopefully you've been in touch with their lender from pre-approval. You know, well, you're about ready to write the offer. So you do have to be in touch with the lender to know if they're FHA, VA, conventional, how much time. Like I always call the lender before we're writing the offer and say, if they write an offer on this house, it's probably going to be somewhere around $700,000. I need to know what their finance amount would be, how much they're going to need to bring to closing. Is there anything about the time frame when we put the closing date on there that you're going to need? So that lender will be probably the core of all that. Said, well, they're putting 20% down, so they're getting a loan for about 600. I'm going to need 45 days minimum to close this thing. So do I need to ask for 60-day closing? No. 45 days would be, I don't think it'll take longer than that. Okay, are you sure? Yeah, okay. So now when I'm writing the offer with the buyer, I know these terms. So that's from showing the house, very interested. I think we want to write an offer. I'm talking to the lender as we're going back to the office to write the offer, or in the car if they're with you, whatever it might be. Before you write that offer, you are getting with the lender to find out those financial terms. And they'll tell you what that is. You don't have to figure that out. Because you're going to want to know that closing date. Once you get that accepted and the lender says, oh, no, I can't do that in 2 weeks, because that was one of the questions. The sooner it closes, the better. Depends. You got to ask the seller, that listing agent, what the seller would like and how long will it take to process the loan. So let me pause there for a second and just give you real world kind of story. So seller wants to move, can move as fast as possible. So that one for 775, we just found her house and we're closing in a week and a half. And these poor people, the sellers, they have 5 little kids. Their house was very lived in, but my seller has to be out of her house on the 20th of next week. And she has a farm full of 30 years worth of stuff. And she's been throwing stuff in storage since we got this offer. So she has to move one time. So I actually called the listing agent on the 5 or 6 houses that I was taking my seller to go look at to buy. I was looking for vacant houses. And if it wasn't vacant, I was calling the agent going, is there any chance that your sellers could move out like in a week and a half? So 3 houses out of 4 said there's just no way. So I didn't even show her those houses because she does not want to do a second move. I showed her the one that the agent said, let me check with my sellers. And she did call me back and she said, you know, if it were the right offer, they would make it work, right? So I knew they had alternatives. And then she did say they actually have friends that they're going to go stay with if they needed to. Perfect, right? So all I was going to do, the plan is I showed her one house and she wrote the offer. She loved it. She wanted to buy it. If she didn't like it, then I would have had another conversation with her about, so let's talk about the second move, because now we're a week and a half away. You don't like this house. I've got 3 others I can show you, but it might mean temporary moving in between. But if they're perfect, I mean, if it really is a nice house and you like it, would that be worth it? But I didn't have to have that conversation because she did take this house and I knew she probably would. So anyway, those checklists will help you walk through that stuff. You've got the checklist attached to your email. Print those out and go over them and look at them. And then creating the offer in command is the most crazy, awesome thing ever. And let me check in with you guys. Are you guys 100% compliance on you go into command, put your people in? Well, maybe you guys haven't even written an offer yet. I don't know. Where you got to put your people in command first, create your opportunity in command, and then it takes you to dot loop. Or do you create it in dot loop first and then come back and put your people in command? Do you guys know the process? Yeah, I'm going to tell you, go into command, so if I meet a buyer today, I do have another database that I'm not completely switched over into command yet, Command is my super met database right now. And what I'm doing is I'm using it every day when we're writing offers and putting people into it. And I'm moving people 5 at a time out of my old database into the new one. And as I move them, I delete them out of the old, and now they're in Command. But when these people that I'm working with, I've been out showing houses to, I'm not putting them in Command necessarily then, but when they say they're ready to write an offer, then I look to see if they're in there. And if they're not, I add them in Command, and I create the opportunity in Command, and then it sets up the document, because that actually then ties that whole folder to my market center for submitting offers. Now I'll tell you, in another market center, I know over on the Kansas side, they're all still old school, creating everything outside of Command, and they're causing extra steps to go back and put it in Command, copying and pasting PDFs back and forth all over the place to get it back in compliance with the office. And it really does create a nightmare for them. So I'm going to say create it in Command. If you haven't done that now, you might as well just start and do it the right way. Any questions about that? Okay, just real quick, any offer guidelines? Again, there's a lot of stuff we're covering here. I don't expect you to remember everything from this 1 hour session. I'm giving you guys a ton of stuff. But as soon as the first person says, I think we like it, you're going to go, that Ignite class, writing an offer, what do I do? So go back through this again. But the cover letter, see, this is where I say the cover letter actually really describes their name, the legal name, maybe your information. You're starting to see more agents even put that on their listings, like offer letters that shows who the title company is. The more you can put in there on the things you know you need to close a property, where your title company is, where your buyers are closing, your contact information, how you're representing your buyer. Are you a designated agent or a buyer's agent or whatever? All that stuff we put in the offer letter. That's where I also kind of put some of those facts too about the financing, and I just sell the facts of the offer, not that they love the property. I used to love putting a picture of the family with it, but because of this whole love letter controversy thing, I'm not necessarily doing that. But I do owe it to my buyers and to help the listing agent present my offer properly by supplying a fact letter about why this financing is better than others, and that we're using a lender that's 30 years experience that closes thousands of loans, that this is not some fly-by-night over the line internet company where you can't call somebody and ask them if my buyer's approved. You can call my guy, here's his number, and he will give you all the terms that he can tell you about my buyer to show you how solid they are. Why wouldn't I put that with the offer, right? Because there are people that are using internet companies and things like that. So again, role playing, this is the stuff outside. If you were just to role play different things, if you were presenting an offer, getting objections and that kind of stuff, playing it out. Honestly, I mean, you're giving the listing agent as much information as you can to make your offer seem like it's the best offer they're going to receive. And you're selling it without selling it hard, but you're describing facts of why this offer is what it is and why it's good and solid, because I don't know what the other offers are, so I can't compare it. But then that's where it comes to the presenting. And so presenting the offer to the listing agent, notify the listing agent incoming offer. What I will do a lot of times is I will call the listing agent and say, again, the house showed great. You did an awesome job on staging tips, or I don't know if that was your client or not, but made the house look good or whatever it was. And then I'll say, and you know, it's one of the top houses that we saw that day. I'm really working to see if they'll make an offer on this one. I'd love to co-op with you. Those words are layered in there. And then it's just like, don't tell them, say, I'm sending an offer. You should have it in the next 5 hours, or you should have it tomorrow. That gives them a whole 24 hours to look for other offers. You want to say, I'm really working to get them to decide on this one. So will you keep me posted if anything else is happening on yours? The other thing I do before I show a property, nowadays it's a little extra work, but before I set those 3 houses up to go show them, I'll send every agent an email and text, and I say, how's the showing traffic been on your listing? Do you have any, how many showings have you had? And how many offers have you received? Or have you not gotten any yet? And I want that. And if you send them that by text, and I usually send the email and then I'll send a text, hey, sent you an email about XYZ Street. So they'll go check and they'll usually hit reply and they're telling me we've got 11 offers, or they're saying lots of showings and no offers yet, or, it's been a little slower than I thought. Those are all good things that I want to know in my buyer's best interest when we go to write an offer. And if they are the person that's like, I'm not telling them that, then they won't respond. So ask, right? I send it to every single agent. Maybe I haven't heard from somebody because they just didn't check their email and they're very disorganized and they don't sell a lot of real estate, but most people respond. Then when you send the offer to the agent, guys, in this tech world, man, do everything. Send it to them multiple ways. If I send it to them through Dotloop, we download a PDF copy, we email it straight. I send them a text and say an offer just came in, confirm that you got it. And if you have to pick up the phone and call them and say, I did send an offer, please confirm that you got it. You've got your bases covered. Whether they check voicemail, text, email, whatever, you should hear back from them that they at least received it. Another little thing that I might have on the previous call, when I'm calling them saying I'm trying to get them to make a decision, here's another great script. You might want to write this down. Say, if you get a great offer, how soon would you be able to meet with the sellers? If you get a great offer, how soon would you be able to meet with the sellers? Because, in your market, it's probably like ours, they're telling you, oh, we're taking final bids, best and final in 5 days, 2 days, whatever. So if an incredible offer shows up, like over the top, how soon would you be able to get with the sellers to present that? And if they say, we're not doing them until Sunday, no matter how good it is. So I'll say, so if it's $1 million over asking price and it's cash, you would not present it till Sunday. Sometimes you might have to get to that point. I'm just asking. And if they say, nope, everything's going in a box until Sunday, and then we'll review them all. So I'm not sending my offer until Sunday. But I might send it in Saturday. And I will tell you a tactic that has worked to avoid multiple offers is I will go ahead and send it on Friday. Today's Friday, right? I'll send it. It might be 20,000 over asking price. And in that letter, it will say, I realize this is short notice. This offer expires tonight at midnight. However, the offer terms are pretty amazing and worth considering. Sellers, these buyers need to move on a property and they might have another one come up before Sunday. So we are presenting this tonight that if the numbers work out and you want to take it, we would be ready to go. I have actually cut co-op agents completely out of offer situations because the agent went ahead and presented it and they took it. It's not my problem. They told everybody else Sunday and they were waiting, but we won the bid. That has worked more than once. Not as many times as maybe 4. So that'll tell you how many times that's worked. A few times is good. It gets your buyers in there and it builds confidence with your buyers. But always create your offer in command and consult with your buyers when they respond. So when the sellers get it, yeah, go ahead.
I said this is a great tactic.
You love it? Guys, we're not playing around here. This Ignite is if we had one of your top teams in here, they would get as much out of this class as you are. So I'm not holding anything back for you guys. You're going to be in there and you're going to remember 1 or 2 of these little tactics that are going to make you win more offers when that pops up. So thank you for acknowledging that, Yusuf. So I'm representing the seller. You're going to receive the offer. You're going to get all the information about the buyer that you can. What I do is I actually have in your toolkit, I put one of my Excel template spreadsheet closing sheets. Now it has nothing to do with your market. So it's probably completely worthless other than you can see like all I have to do is plug in the price. I plug in the closing month and I put in the taxes on the house that they're buying, and it will calculate everything to say, if we put for my seller, if we got a $200,000 or $700,000 offer, that was my example today, and you paid off your $300,000 loan and you closed in March, it calculates everything through the spreadsheet that I created manually, and it gives me a net down at the bottom. So that when I'm meeting with the seller, I just run my actual net sheet based on the offer's terms. As every offer that's been received, they just get their own net sheet and I put it on top. And I just have, if I have 5 offers, the top net sheets are on there and it says on there if it's FHA, VA, if there's any concessions that they've got, that's at the top of the spreadsheet. and there's their net. So I don't run some big formula 20 something spreadsheets. I will bring, if I had 20 offers, I would run a net sheet on each offer. So it'd take me probably 5 minutes per offer. If I had 20 offers, it's going to take 40 minutes. Well, probably a little longer than that, 2 hours to put it all together. I'm going to put them in a stack from the lowest net to the highest net. And I'm going to go through the first 15 offers pretty fast. Here's the net sheet. Here's the net sheet. I've showed them the net sheet on what they're going to net and the terms. And now we get down to the top 5. There's no reason for me to go over those anymore at this point. I've got 5 more really good ones to go over. So those, and I will say, so if something doesn't work out, these 5, we can go back and relook at any of those. Oh no, we're not going to any of those, right? Because some are under, some are at. These are all going over asking price. And one of them's cash. I do not need to go over those offers any more than that. I've showed them the net sheet and all the terms are on that one page, right? So then I present it and then we pick the one and then we respond to it. And again, this is giving you so much stuff. I mean, there's your checklist for reviewing the offer. And it just shows presenting the offer. You notify the seller, you update their market. So like a lot of times if I'm getting an offer on a property and it's less than asking price, I'm going to pull up what has sold and gone under contract since they listed with me, because maybe it's a market where things aren't going for over asking price anymore. And if I show them only 3 houses or 3 other houses went under contract in the neighborhood and 4 or 5 in the area, and they were all less than the current offer we have, this might not be a bad offer, even though it's not their asking price. And then I'll present the offer and then let them decide. Again, I don't decide for them. I say, can you live with this bottom number here? If I wrote you a check for that amount, would you take it? And if they say yes, then I say, then you probably should take the offer. You don't think we should counter? Well, so if you counter even $1,000, you give the buyer the opportunity to change their mind. And if they walk and you don't get a second chance at it, are you going to be kicking yourself for not taking the offer that you said you would have been happy with? So that's how I get them to that part of it. And then the last thing, just it's the same thing that we talked about either. You're either going to counter, accept, reject. I don't let my sellers reject. And then we're going to negotiate or start the process. Basically what it's going to come down to. So I think that pretty much is, yep, that's everything right there. All right, I'm going to get to I definitely want to share the code today because you guys might light up the feedback on this one today. All right, what questions do you guys have? I know we're probably, a couple minutes over. Woo, 8 minutes over. We covered a lot of stuff though. What questions do you guys have? Any questions that come up out of this? Oh, man. Did I not share my slides today? Oh man, I hate that I can't cut him off in the beginning. Next time, yell at me. Say, hey, you didn't share your slides, but I think we did pretty good without seeing them, right? Were you guys able to follow most everything? Okay, woo. Yeah, don't let me do that. If you guys need the slides and want to see them, I mean, definitely let me know.
You said that you had sent an email with a checklist, I believe. I don't know which email was that, if I even got it.
Yeah. Oh, what is that? That's not what I want. Yes, I could actually attach that. What am I thinking here? Oh, I can attach that net sheet to it. It's in the folder that has all your stuff in it. But if you don't know how to get there, I'll just send a reply email to today's email for you guys and attach one to it. It's really just an Excel spreadsheet, and it does have some formulas in it, and it's probably completely irrelevant for your market. Okay, so some of this stuff might not make sense to you as when you look at it, but if you just plug a price into it, you'll see it start calculating everything. So you can see how that works. I'll send you the buyer one and the seller one because we do also change the stuff in it a little bit. All right. All right, there's the survey. If you click that, it'll open up a separate link and or a separate tab so you can fill that out here after we jump off. I'll send you guys that email now with those spreadsheets on it and just play around with them, download them and play around with them, okay? And you might even show it to maybe like some of your leadership, or if you have a productivity coach or whoever, and maybe they can help you change some of those numbers and formulas to where you could use that. I find that the easiest way to do it. There's a lot of bigger teams that use all kinds of calculated spreadsheets and stuff. I keep, well, you guys know, what do? I keep it simple.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, keep it simple.
The spreadsheet, does it also include the dates, like the timeline to plug in into the offer? Or no?
The timeline for, well, maybe when you're explaining to your buyer. So when we did the buyer consultation, we kind of talked about what happens, if this is what you're asking.
No, on the offer, like there's a certain amount of days that you have to put in for the inspection, the tenant review, the expiration, and
yeah, so we didn't really talk about expiration. I always try to get the agent to tell me when they could meet with the seller. So if you got a great offer today, how soon would you be able to meet with the sellers? You can get all kinds of, they work until 9 o'clock. They're hard to get a hold of, or, you know, I talk to them every day. So if you got a great offer, you could actually get with them tonight. Yeah, I could. Well, then it's expiring tonight. That's why if you put 24 hours or 48 hours and you're writing an offer on my property, and it could be us right now, you're really showing one of my listings. I represent my seller to get them the most money possible. As much as I like you and as much as I'd love for you to sell the property, I want to co-op with you. It is my due diligence to try and round up another offer before your expiration date hits. See what I mean? So I have to call everyone that showed it and go, dude, I got an offer in. I can't tell them what the offer is, but I'm saying, if your people were at least wanted a shot, I've got to hear from you today. I got to know if that offer is coming back in. And then if that did happen, I would definitely call you back and go, hey, there is another interested party. I just want to make sure I have your best offer in my hand. So I would actually even give you a second chance, even though you don't like to get that call. I'd rather get that call than have the other offer be better, and my people would have changed their offer and they didn't. Because again, don't get tied to it. If your buyers come up $10,000 and they win, you got them the house. That's what you were supposed to do. You weren't supposed to get them the house at a certain price. That's not for you to decide. That's for them to decide what the value is. Does that make sense? Our job is to win the house.
okay.
Okay. And I literally just had a conversation with that earlier with some coaches today. They said, remove your opinion from everything. I mean, if you think it's too much for that house, that is not, I mean, we're representing them. We're not here to tell them what's too much and too little. Real estate values are changing. So you have to use that with smarts, right? And find out what it's worth to them. If it is truly grossly overpriced and they're getting a loan, then the appraisal should catch it. And if the appraiser appraises it, then your opinion that it's too much and his opinion that it's not is everybody's opinion. And the only opinion that matters is the buyer and what they paid for it. If they like their price, they like their price and terms, they got the house. So now I'll throw one more bonus in there. I might say in situations where it's a hot market like this and they are going high, I will say, just don't call me back in 2 years and expect me to make you some money on this. Values are going up. I don't think you can pay too much for a house, but you're not going to be able to call me in a year and sell it and make a profit. Okay. So don't call me in a year and expect to make a profit. If you get moved, you got the house, right? I don't mind saying stuff like that too. But if you're going to be there 5 years or 10 years, I can't imagine, and I've never seen a market where somebody would lose, where values have dropped for 10 years. You know, I've never seen that market. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I've never seen that market. Most people, if they stay in their house 10 years, they're gonna have paid their mortgage down for 10 years. Even if the value doesn't go up, they'll have equity. Good questions, guys. Hopefully I didn't go too far over the top with this information. Did you like the level of information that we shared? Yeah.
Awesome. Loved it.
I'm not going too far, too fast.
No,
No.
everything's perfect.
That's because you guys are smart. All right, you better tell everybody what they're missing out, man. This is not just Ignite. This is crazy stuff. I'm glad you guys got a good class out of it.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.